Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about how nobody wants to visit Hollywood anymore. Nobody wants to visit.
I wonder why.
We're going to talk about how LA tourism is slumping and they're blaming Trump and fires and mostly Trump. And we're going to talk about how Hollywood could lose some funding and how celebrities are flipping out because everybody is moving their productions out of Hollywood and all of that jazz. So, you know,
honestly, I can understand why they're moving everything out of Hollywood. It's a no pun intended, dumpster fire. Yeah. And it's just, besides the burning, it's just too expensive and it's ridiculous. And I always thought it was overpriced and kind of lame to begin with, but that's just me. I wasn't a fan.
We're going to talk about this. People not visiting Hollywood could also be the economy. Maybe they just don't have the money to go. I don't know. But
I thought California was like the best state. Everybody wanted to be there, according to like Newsom and stuff.
According to Newsom, everybody wants to live.
Yeah, I know, right? And if you try to leave, you still want to pay your taxes to California.
You still have to pay your taxes if you try to leave California. Yeah, it's crazy. So that's what this is all about. They're all freaking out because everybody's leaving California. They're taking their tax dollars with them. They're trying to claw back as much of that as they can. They're looking to the government and the federal government even to get bailouts. And Trump is basically going to say no, I think, in a lot of cases. So let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You will get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo.
So we've been kind of covering the decline in Hollywood productions. It really ramped up during the pandemic and then the subsequent strikes, which, you know, people said, you know, everything was going to be fine on the other side of it. And guess what? Things are not fine. And unfortunately, they had, you know, the fires too. That didn't help. But things were bad before that. And now more and more studios are looking at moving their productions out of Hollywood, and more vacationers are opting not to visit Hollywood. And they're actually saying it's partly Trump's fault because foreign tourists are afraid they're going to get stuck here and like put in concentration camps or something.
Well, you know what? Actually, you know what though? They are thinking that. I don't know where they're getting that from. I think they're getting illegal immigration confused with visiting. Because I tell you what, when they said they were going to do the next summer celebration in LA for the 50th anniversary, people were like losing their crap on Facebook and Twitter and stuff, saying they weren't going to go because they won't come to the U.S. if you're a foreigner. Because there seems to be this misconception that if you come to the United States, somehow you aren't going to be allowed to leave the United States.
I know,
and that's not true. You come in and you come in under a visitor's, visa or whatever your passport. You stay a lot of time and you go home. It's really not like they're making it out to be. So I don't know what they're telling people over there.
If you stay for like 5 years.
Right. If you come in here illegally and then you don't leave, that's completely different than I'm coming to visit and I'm leaving. Just like if we go visit their country, we go in with the proper paperwork, you save your allotted time and you go home. You're fine.
Hopefully.
I know. That's what I'm saying. They weren't going to put up with
overseas.
I know, but they're not going to put up a bunch of Americans just illegally going and infiltrating their country and parking it there.
No. Oh God. So let's we're gonna talk about this because they're saying it's affecting theme parks, it's affecting Universal and Disneyland, and everybody's flipping out. Basically, Hollywood is flipping out because they're no longer a destination either for productions or for tourism. So this is coming from the Wrap. LA tourism faces a summer slump as Trump policies and wildfires leave travelers skittish. Of course, you have to blame Trump.
I mean, the wildfires I get because you're people that aren't from the area. If you're from another country, you're looking at the news and you don't understand the way it's laid out. You don't understand the actual politics and stuff. I can see where you get scared off. But people that are here aren't like avoiding it over the wildfires.
I think if people are avoiding they're avoiding going to California because California right now is not in a very good place. It's kind of crazy.
I avoid going to California because California itself is a dumpster fire. That's why I avoid California.
It's so sad. I used to live there. It's so sad. It is so sad to see. I mean, it really is heartbreaking to see because it didn't used to be this bad. It really didn't. I mean, it depends on what part of California you're in, but like I lived in Northern California. It wasn't bad.
But we're talking about Southern California in regards to this.
There's always been a little quirky. There's always been some stuff going on down there. But yeah, it's crazy. So this is Pedro Consuelo. He's worked at the Souvenirs of Hollywood since 1990. He's almost 60, and he had to pick up a part-time job to provide for his family this year.
But that's not new to this year. That kind of stuff we hear all the time about, Disneyland and the way they pay their people. That's not just because of this.
Sales have been down 50%. So Souvenirs of Hollywood. So that is the souvenir shop that sits catty corner from the Chinese Theater, the Walk of Fame. He said that it's disheartening to see the decrease in tourists, especially in recent months. Looking to summer, typically the shop's busy during the summer. He said he's worried that sales will continue to trend lower. He's not alone. California has positioned itself as a safe haven. California has positioned itself as a safe haven from the chaos coming out of Trump's White House for tourists internationally.
Okay, but they're still not coming. So there must not be that much of a safe haven, right?
But its efforts may not be enough to win over sightseers this summer. That doesn't bode well for what has been California's $150 billion tourism economy. More dire predictions about inbound travel to the U.S. trickle out with each new week as Trump's policies on trade and the blowback at home to the economy has many Americans and overseas travelers curbing travel plans in anticipation of costs rising, or they fear hostility to non-Americans. What?
People in America aren't going to be dicks to you because you're not American. Will be dicks to you if you come here and don't leave.
Maybe people just are over Hollywood. Maybe overseas they're over Hollywood because we're seeing more and more movies. I just saw an article today on Cartoon Brew that there was an animated film from Indonesia that beat Frozen 2 over there. So they're like, maybe they got their own movie studio, and that kind of goes along with, everybody moving production out of Hollywood and in some cases moving it overseas. But like maybe Hollywood isn't it. Maybe it's not the nexus anymore of entertainment. That could be too. I mean, I'm not saying this stuff isn't affecting tourism, but it might be a more complicated situation than what they're trying, because they're basically, Hollywood thinks Hollywood is so great that everybody's going to line up to come to Hollywood and spend all their money in Hollywood because it's so damn great. And if people aren't coming to Hollywood, it's because of Trump.
Well, they're trying to say tourism's down in March because the biggest decline because of they're afraid of Trump again is what they're trying to argue. Honestly, I'm not saying this is a bad thing personally, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, Americans are dicks, so are some foreign tourists, right? I mean, I just think it'd be real dicks.
Actually, a lot of people say from other countries, America is one of the nicest places as far as people are concerned.
Because some of the countries, I mean, I'll be honest, some countries, like the culture is just rudeness. Like you get what you can get for yourself, because if you don't, nobody's going to give it to you. Nobody's going to, let you butt in line. Nobody's going to, research firm Tourism Economics projected overall international travel to decrease 5% this year, with a 15% decline in travel from Canada. Canadians are afraid they're going to get here. And they were actually telling them that. They had a game developer telling them not to go to the one game developers conference in San Francisco, because if you're Canadian, you might not be allowed to leave.
Yeah, there's a bunch of misinformation, I think, is what's leading to all this. And I think it's deliberate misinformation. That's a whole other story.
We're going to take over Canada one person at a time. Every Canadian that comes in here, we're going to keep you here until they give us Canada.
You're now American. I have to admit, the Canada comments, even if they were a joke, were not the smartest thing to do. But,
Oh, God. Yes, they said Canada definitely is one of the biggest, sources for tourism in California. Complicating matters for LA is the impact of the wildfires. That I believe. Because, things are not in the greatest of places right now. Universal, Comcast said on Thursday, revenue at Universal in California dropped 5.2% in the first quarter, citing the fires as one of the reasons.
Well, yeah. I can see it then, but for summer, I don't see it. I don't understand why.
Yeah. So they're like, we're hoping by summer things are going to get sorted out.
In general, people are just leaving Hollywood for so many reasons. It's too expensive, for one. California in general is just way too expensive. You can go much nicer places, get much better incentives, both in tax credits and, location, and like different other things that might be attractive to people that work in and around Hollywood. And other countries are offering all kinds of tax incentives. It's cheaper to go to those places. And, honestly, they're in the catbird seat because either Hollywood doesn't offer them, if Gavin Newsom and company doesn't offer them better incentives to stay in Hollywood, they're not gonna, nor do they have to.
Yeah,
and I think that's what's going on.
And we're going to talk about that because they're desperate to. And even Michelle Pfeiffer is like flipping out. She's like, "Oh my god, like LA is not going to be the nexus of entertainment anymore." But this is and Newsom's a big part of it, right? I think a lot of people leave him because of Newsom's policies, right? But yeah, so they said that they're trying to market LA to tourists. Well, we'll talk about the tourism thing, then we'll get into the production thing. But they said they're trying to market as a let's see here, welcoming an inclusive place where everyone feels at home to distance themselves from the Trump administration. It's inclusive.
Well, if they want to go to California, knock themselves out. Be my guest.
They said that they are sounding the alarm about the tariffs. They said that's definitely going to hurt. This is interesting. They said we're seeing softness in Hollywood.
So many jokes, but I'm going to be very good right now.
Due to the aftermath of the wildfires and our proximity to the area, that's universal. They said Disney might experience a similar slump in visitor numbers amid trade tensions and tariffs. What do the tariffs have to do with people? I mean, what, you can't buy more cheap shit at the theme parks?
I don't know. They keep bringing it up, and I'm like, I don't understand. Unless they're meaning the people from China aren't going to come because they're mad. Well, they don't need to. They have 2 Disneys in China.
Yeah, so they're basically talking about the Canadian border slowdown.
I think people aren't coming because Disney's too expensive.
Disney is expensive,
and now that the fires did happen, places to stay are probably more expensive.
So yeah, exactly. They're
start on this one.
A lot. Okay, so this is a multi-tiered issue here. Well, one, they're trying to tell people not to leave California because it's going to hurt the environment if you do. They said
I don't think that's a good enough reason. Sorry.
They said the above the line talent flying between California on the weekends and going elsewhere, it's increasing the carbon footprint.
Well, that would be true because they're flying all over the place to go home to set and everything else. And we talked before about how, some of the movies they did, like Snow White, and some of the other ones cost too much or cost a lot more, as far as the carbon footprint. Yeah, because where they were at. So, I mean, that's true, but I don't think people are really going to care that much.
They're just like desperately trying to throw any blame it
on everything.
Yeah,
okay, guys. Because
if you don't care about Trump, you care about the environment, right? All these A-list celebrities using their private jets to fly back and forth. I'm like, did it ever occur to you that some of these people might just up and move out of California completely?
A lot of them did, and they're flying into California to do shoots.
Yeah. Oh God.
The cows promise they will stop farting if you don't leave Hollywood.
Then we got this one. Then we'll talk about Trump. Michelle Pfeiffer worries LA will no longer be an industry town. You need to bring back the tax incentives.
They're gonna have to. I mean, I do want to keep filming there. Why? What draw is there? What incentive is there to film there? You don't get a tax break. It's really expensive. Everything's union, et cetera, et cetera. There's just so many different things that it doesn't look appealing. And so you fly and it costs money in your carbon footprint to fly, but you can go someplace else and it's far better for the studio and everything else. They're going to go where it's cheapest for them because they want to make the most money they can, especially when so many movies don't do that well anymore.
Yeah. And that's just it. Like, and we're going to talk about that. Like, we've had a couple of breakout successes in the theater. We talked about Minecraft before, and we'll talk about about Sinners. Sinners is doing really well too. And these are not like tentpole, like what you'd think of as traditional tentpole movies. They're kind of lower budget, and they're doing really well. But yeah, they said Michelle Pfeiffer. Oh God, Michelle Pfeiffer. Michelle Pfeiffer's worried that LA is on the verge of no longer being an industry town.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
She was a good Catwoman. She was pretty good Catwoman. She was good. She was good in Stardust too.
I love Stardust. It's my favorites.
She said it's more complicated than it appears, probably, but the jobs are not gone. They've moved. We got to bring them back. Well, if it were my decision, and I were a studio owner, and I were looking at the state of California, and I would make my decisions accordingly. I'd be like, you know what? If Nevada is giving us tax incentives and we don't have to deal with all the crazy ass people, yeah.
Well, Nevada, you don't have to fly, or so you could probably drive and you don't have to fly so far, so the carbon footprint wouldn't be as bad.
Yeah, that's true. Ben Affleck, this is interesting. He said part of the problem with California is they came to take this industry for granted. Yeah, they just thought that people were always going to stay there. So it's everything is changing, and it's all Trump's fault. So let's talk about
this one. This one gets me because the Harvard thing. So they're like, Harvard was first, Hollywood could be next. It's like, well, Harvard shouldn't have been getting $550 million to begin with. I'm sorry. It's ridiculous they're getting that much money, which I want to point out started under Trump's first administration. So he giveth, he taketh away, I guess. But they shouldn't have been given that much money to begin with. It makes me so mad. Because you have so many other things that could have done with that money. So many students you could have given scholarships to or whatever. But no, you're giving it to Harvard. Harvard, who's an elitist school to begin with, that you have to have mommy and daddy have to be well off, or it's ridiculously expensive.
Or know somebody.
Why the fudge would you give them a whole bunch of money when you could have invested it in other state schools or programs and scholarships for kids so they wouldn't owe a massive amount of student loan debt? No, let's just give Harvard, who's already like $7 million per student in like what their funding and stuff is, more money. This is not related to Hollywood, but I was like, what the fudge? So they lost the money. Wham, wham, boo, flipping who? Cry me a effing river.
This is a lot of sour grapes. So they're mad that Melania Trump, which I didn't know about that, she got an Amazon deal.
Well, so has all these other people.
Michelle
Obama's gotten deals.
Meghan Markle had a Netflix deal. Like,
yes.
How is this any?
It's no different. It's just because her last name's Trump.
Yeah, and they're like, oh my God, now the White House is going to have influence over Hollywood and entertainment. I'm like, it's been.
Trump was always in Hollywood, and until he ran Republican, they loved him and wanted his money and wanted him there. They have Oprah Winfrey fawning all over him on multiple occasions.
Related stories. Bill Maher defends the White House, slams Nazi compare. How very dare you, Bill Maher? You turned. So when Trump threatened Harvard University's tax-exempt status last week after the school rebuffed his administration's demands for a series of policy changes, this came from the Hollywood Reporter, by the way, if I didn't mention that, it became apparent that it could be leveraged as another weapon in his arsenal to get what he wants out of the entertainment business. Oh my God, guys, better take him out of Home Alone 2. Stat.
Why the hell is Harvard getting to be tax exempt?
Again, this is one of the people that go to Harvard have money, right? Like, why are they tax exempt? Hollywood leans, okay, here we go. Hollywood leans on a network of trade groups and associations representing various segments of the business.
Yes.
These include unions,
yes,
guilds, and professional organizations that advocate and promote the interests of its members.
Yes, we all remember the summer of strikes. Yes.
The Academy of Motion Picture and Arts and Sciences and the Recording Academy, the organization behind the Oscars, and the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures is a tax-exempt entity which covers trade associations. It hasn't been immune to the ongoing period of contraction across Hollywood, laying off some of its workers last year.
Yeah, of course it did.
Everybody has
I'm trying to understand why it's supposed to feel bad, but go ahead.
Even though the ratings are good, we need that money. Is that what they're going? They're complaining about the Academy not getting money because of Trump.
But they're tax exempt. I want what they're supposed to be being given money to. I don't understand. Like, was their status being revoked, or was it just they think they should be getting money on top of it?
Yes, they think they should be getting money on top of it.
For what reason? Because basically all you do is just sit there and like worship each other, kiss each other's ass, circle jerk yourself once a year. And then and then have to pay membership dues and all this other stuff, and the general public is supposed to fawn all over you, and it's like, so why should you be given money?
Okay, so this is the thing. They're afraid Trump's going to take their funding away because look at what happened with
what funding? They get government funding?
Well, they're a tax exempt entity, a 501c.
Okay, but that just means they don't pay taxes on it. But
right,
what's that have to do with getting money and
taxes?
Losing money?
Yeah, what we're going to do. They said they're worried about his war on diversity and inclusion. And they said if Trump does flout federal laws barring him from directing the IRS to conduct tax investigations targeting specific groups, it could embolden his circle to do the same with trade groups, nonprofits, and the entertainment sector.
What I'm hearing is we don't want Trump to audit
We don't want to pay taxes.
We don't want to be audited. We don't want to. We don't want to be looking into where the money's going. That's what
Yes.
it sounds like to a normie. That's what it sounds like to me. And I love this. They're against diversity and inclusion. No, that's not what the truth. But Hollywood has been over the top ridiculous with their DEI stuff. The Academy of Arts and Motion Picture Arts and Sciences and all that weren't they one of the ones putting mandates on how people would be allowed to enter for awards by how much diversity and inclusion you have in your staff? So they actually passed on a lot of movies that should have been included because they didn't have enough diversity and inclusion, and they had to turn around and mandate that if you voted, you have to watch the movies to vote, because people were voting against vote against the diversity and inclusion bullshit.
Well, you think that would be a kind of a no. If you're voting for Best Picture, but you don't watch the movies, how the hell do you know what the Best Picture
Exactly.
is? Yeah, that's
but I'm just saying, people were voting. They said that people were voting in opposition to the initiatives. So, potato.
But yeah, so they're like, oh, I love this. This is Edward McCaffrey, a professor of tax policy at USC. They would love to make an example
University
out
of
of Hollywood.
South California?
Southern California.
Yep. Okay, yeah. So, a guy in California who's probably up their asses.
If you give Trump and his acolytes a tool, they're going to use it. So here's the thing. Weren't they also complaining that Doge was going to get rid of the IRS eventually? Because they're really cutting back. So in one breath, you've got like, oh my God, guys, what are we going to do? They're getting rid of the IRS. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Where's all our money going to come? Well, who's going to build the roads? And then now it's like, oh my God, guys, Trump's going to use the IRS to make us pay taxes.
Well, or they worry that they're going to get rid of the IRS, and then because they don't have the protections of the tax exempt status, there's still a new way of paying taxes in a different way. They'll still have to be accountable, and that's what they're worried about.
Wow, they are really flipping the hell out, just on so many levels.
Blah, blah, blah. General public doesn't give a shit. Wham.
Okay, so that's where I want to end it. The general public does not care about Hollywood's problems. This is why people don't care about the Oscars and the Emmys and the Grammys and the whatever the hell else.
I mean, the general public who's like, I don't know how I'm going to afford my house payment and my food and my medicines and everything else, don't give two shits about whether the Academy of Arts, Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, have to lay off a couple people because they don't have as much money as they did before, and they think they should be given more money. They don't care. Actually, that's if they think you're after money, they're going to be like, kiss my ass, and they're going to hate you more.
Yeah. So what is the average person going to think? They're going to think, oh, wait, I got to pay more taxes so George Clooney can fly, so he doesn't fly his private jet to. Well,
in California,
or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's what would happen. People in Northern California and places that aren't related to the film industry are going to have to pay more in taxes to give tax incentives, which I think they're going to have to do. Tax incentives to Hollywood so that,
they can burn the money.
The people like that, they're out there going on about the environment and stuff, can fly somewhere else to do another movie.
So I am a firm believer in the free market. And I think if you I'm not saying take all the guardrails off, but if you take the training wheels off of the free market, the market always corrects. The market decides how things are going to work, how things are going to be priced. And I think what has happened for many years, and we saw this in media too, is that things were being propped up. The market was being fudged with taxpayer money and special interests and whatever. And if it's not financially viable to keep entertainment in California where they can control it, then it's not financially viable, right?
No.
Just let it.
Well, that's what they're
free
afraid
it.
of too.
Let it free.
It goes other places, and then the powers that be don't get to control the quotas for different things, and they don't get all the money and the
union bosses don't get
and stuff like
everything.
that. Or any of these organizations, and it's just that's why they're desperately trying to keep it there. But I just think it's going to spread out past Hollywood. It was always going to happen as soon as the internet became a thing. Yeah. I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner, to be completely honest with you, because we used to do work that would normally you would have had to been like for comics. You normally would have had to been at a studio or like inside And we could do it, in PA and submit it because the internet was the tool that allowed you to do that. You didn't have to live in these places. I'm surprised it's taken this long for it to collapse.
I think because the market's been fiddled with. I think it's because we had these interest groups, special interest groups, working with the government to keep, because it's in their best interest to keep all of entertainment in California to keep most of publishing in New York because they get the taxes and they get to control the people and they get to control the flow of the spice. Right. So everything is being upended by the internet. This is why I believe that, the Hollywood types and mainstream journalists have been attacking the internet personalities so hard, and they've been trying to paint them as being, just a bunch of they're just a bunch of bumpkins. I don't know what the hell.
I get that, but it's just weird to me that's taken this long because YouTube's upended it for a while now. Citizen journalists have upended it for a while now. I'm just surprised it's taken as long as it's taken. And now they're like trying to say it's wildfires. It's like, no, I think it's years coming. And the fact that LA wouldn't give the tax incentives, when studios realized how easy it was to go to the UK, they're just going to keep doing that, or to go someplace else. They're just going to keep doing that. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. So
blame George Lucas. George Lucas was one of the first ones. He walked away from the unions, and then he started doing more stuff overseas, in the UK and in Australia, and then they started doing films in New Zealand and all. So yeah, I mean, all it takes is a couple of people to break rank and be like, you know what, this is how we're going to do things now. And you got Woody Harrelson out there with Matthew McConaughey saying, hey, you should just move to Texas. You got other people pushing for Nevada. You got people trying to set up shop in Florida.
I just say go set up shop where you want to set up shop. If it's outside of LA, it's outside of LA. You can go wherever you want to go and start your own studios and stuff.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be there. If they offer you incentives, then great. But if they don't, or you feel it's more financially viable and we get more independent voices and better IP that isn't like just a rehash of everything that's already been done, I'll go for it. I'd love to see new things done by independent voices. So we're going to wrap this up. It's going for a very long time.
We're going to wrap this up, guys. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.